Hi everybody, how are you today? Well, we've got a nice day again, thank goodness. So I'm outside, I'm still continuing with the coppicing that I started last week. And when I was doing the willow last week, that willow, I don't know what kind of willow it was, because there are hundreds of different varieties. And often, if different willows are near each other, they will hybridize and create another type of willow. But this willow here is white willow. I received this as a little stripling like this from one of my teachers. And white willow is medicinal, as are other willows as well. But I'm just talking about white willow today. And I'm going to tell you how it's medicinal, how you can use it, and some of the metaphysical properties as well. But first of all, I'm just going to take this branch down. So this white willow, as I said, I planted it as a little kind of a stripling like this, and it's grown into a nice girth-sized tree, but it's getting very tall and tatty at the top because the wind catches it. And this is actually my medicinal white willow. And unfortunately as well, I put in these 3 or 4 little lilac bushes here. And as you can see, this is getting blown by the west winds which come and hit it. It's squishing into this little lilac tree, and the bark on that is getting damaged. So it's time for this one to be coppiced right down. And in time, again, as I said last week, when you coppice it right down to the ground, it will put up lovely straight shoots that'll be more manageable, more usable, and it means I'll have a constant supply of white willow. So I'll tell you something about it. It has a grey, like this, as I said, there's so many species of willow that unless you're an absolute expert, it can be quite difficult to say exactly which one is which. So we know that this is white willow because it has a grey-green bark. And it can grow into quite a large tree rather than a little shrub or a bush. And as you can see, this is very tall, and it would have had more branches coming out, but I have taken some down in earlier years just because they're encroaching on other trees. Apart from the grey-green bark, you can also tell when the leaves come out, because on the white willow, when the leaves show themselves, the underneath of the leaf is very white, kind of silvery colour. And so that's another way that you can be sure that you have white willow. There now. So I'll tell you about willow then, the white willow. It's Lots of people will already have heard that it's good for pain relief. It's an anodyne, or it's an analgesic. So headaches, aches and pains, things like that, it's going to be beneficial for. Willow is a medicinal plant because it contains salicylic acid, like the meadowsweet that we've talked about before. And so aspirin, remember, is derived from salicylic acid. And so the willow is going to do a lot of the same things that aspirin does, except there's a big difference. So the big difference is, of course, that willow is a natural being like yourself, whereas aspirin is a synthetic chemical which is derived from the salicylic acid that we find in the willow. Now, what we can use willow for is headaches. Depending on your type of headache, there's different types of headache, but if your headache is kind of throbbing and heavy, and it's to do with your circulation, perhaps that you've got, a fuddled head, willow can help. It's also good for general aches and pains. If you've been doing a day in the garden, for example, and you've got a few aches and pains, or if you've overdone it on your fitness regime, you can turn to willow bark for that. Another thing willow bark can do, which is similar to aspirin, is that it can bring down your temperature. So if you have a high fever during a bad cold or a flu or some other kind of infection, and your temperature is going up, willow bark will reduce the temperature. It's a diaphoretic herb. But unlike um, fever medications that you might get, which just suppress the fever, they just push it right back down into the body, so your body can't do its job. Willow works with the body, so your fever continues, but to prevent it getting too high and becoming dangerous, the willow, the salicylic acid, will encourage that heat to push out along your elimination pathways. So you will sweat out the toxins, the infection, and your temperature is working in a positive way to do that. So rather than suppressing it as you would do with an over the counter medication for fever, this allows your fever to work as it is supposed to do, which is to eliminate and burn up, like putting things into an incinerator that you don't want anymore. That's how willow works in the body. So that is what willow is most well known for: aches and pains, headaches, and reducing fevers. So I'm cutting willow down, so I have lots of opportunity to take the bark from the branches. But if you have a living tree that you don't want to coppice at the moment, you can just take branches, and then you're just taking a knife and you're stripping off the bark. So I'm going to do this closer to the house so that any bark that falls, I'll be able to collect it. And here's an example of another white willow that is really, really large and is stretching right across this tiny little glade here. So I'm going to be coppicing this tree as well. But I just wanted you to see how large it can get. It's fallen over here, but you can see from the branches that have gone up vertically how big it would have been if it hadn't been blown over in the wind some years back. To just continue about the medicinal benefits, I've only mentioned pain relief, headaches, and fevers, but a lot of people tend to forget that willow is also a brilliant herbal remedy for stomach disorders. It can help expel worms, tapeworms, and pinworms. And as I say, it will reduce inflammation in the stomach area and generally tone up the stomach as well. Apart from that, the leaves are very beneficial for wounds. It will stop bleeding quickly. And like the elder, you could make a salve and apply it to wounds to prevent infection in the wounds, to heal a green wound, to prevent gangrene. So I think it's a very overlooked medicinal plant or medicinal tree. And those who do know it has healing properties tend to think it's just for pain relief, but it's actually a lot more than that. It's great for digestive complaints. And then, of course, we can think of its metaphysical qualities. It's ruled by the moon and it's associated with the element of the water. It's regarded as a female tree or a feminine tree because of its beautiful flexibility and dance that it does with the wind. And so it's a tree that you could work with on that kind of spiritual, metaphysical level if you wanted to bring in a more feminine aspect to yourself, or more flexibility, for example, in your life or in your behavior. And so I think it's a great tree to be working with at this time in our evolution, because I think I think as our material world becomes more and more material, we become kind of pushed into a little box, and this is where we're supposed to be, and we're supposed to just comply with everything, whereas I think it'd be better to be flexible and moving, and because of the impact of the moon, develop our intuition so that we can think more and make up our own mind about things rather than be fixed into that little box. So I'm going to get a bit more of this branch now, and then I'll show you how to take the bark off when we get up to the house. So you need a sharp knife and you're just stripping off the bark. So we want to get inside to the interior bark that's just under the external bark. That's the bit we were looking for. But if you just strip it all off, you're going to get that as well. And it is a really delicious tea, actually. You just let this dry, hanging it up in the bag. Let it dry or put it out on a screen, even a baking cooling tray, and let it dry and make your tea with it. It's delicious. So if you have any willow in your garden, now is the time to get it before the sap rises up and the leaves are coming out. And we don't want to take too many branches because the bees will be coming out of hibernation shortly and they enjoy the willow catkins when they appear. So now is the best time to get your bark if you want to have an alternative to aspirin, because of course one of the benefits is, unlike aspirin, it's going to soothe the stomach, it's going to reduce inflammation, it's full of tannins, so it's very astringent. That means it's going to tone up all the membranes going down through the digestive system so that they can work more effectively in digesting food and extracting nutrients. So we're peeling off the willow bark, and it's the internal part of that bark which is what we're looking for the medicine. So you want to take off those little extra bits. But just peeling off the bark is going to get that for you anyway. I think it's really reassuring and wonderful to know that not only can we forage for plants that are medicinal, but we can also look at our trees. They have so much to offer as well on so many levels. And willow is particularly lovely because it can help with so many problems. It's going to remove worms, it's going to ease the stomach, it's going to tone up the digestive system, it's a pain reliever, and it's going to help reduce fevers, as well as, if you're using the leaves, green wounds and preventing infection. So it's really a very important ally. And of course, as I said, it has its wonderful metaphysical qualities of flexibility, intuition, getting in touch with your feminine side, maybe touching into emotions that need to be processed and released. It's all about flow and flexibility. And that helps us not to become too dogmatic and be more open to other people's views, which is always a good thing, so that we don't end up in states of disharmony and even war. So enjoy the willow near you. And even if you can't get the white willow to make medicine with, you can still commune and connect with the willow for those other qualities. So I'd better get this done, and I've got to keep coppicing. There's lots more to do yet. It's definitely a longer job than I thought. So I'm going to keep going. And of course, if you're interested in learning more about herbal medicine, the herbal bundle is on a special offer at the moment. It will be available until the 1st of February. So there's still time to avail of it. And it's a good way of getting several courses just for the same price as one. So I'll continue with this, and I'll see you next week. Don't forget, Imolk is coming up soon as well, so lots to look forward to. So bye for now. I hope you enjoyed today's film. If you did, subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. And have a look at the website danusirishherbgarden.com for more information about us and about the herbal medicine courses I offer and the Wise Woman Way training. And if you go to the shop, you can find the books, the weed handbooks and other herbal goodies. And remember, we put a new film out every Sunday. So looking forward to seeing you next week.